Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how top experts sell their ideas, their value, and their services. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees. Well, my friends, you are in for a real treat. I have the one, the only, the amazing Suzanne Evans. Suzanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
So you are such a rock star. I don't ordinarily do this, but for you, I'm totally going to do it. I'm going to read the little intro bio thing.
Oh, you don't have to.
And then I'm going to give you like the real intro.
Okay.
The real Suzanne Evans deal. So here goes the PR version. Suzanne Evans, owner and founder of Driven Inc., is the tell it like it is, no fluff boss of business building. She provides support, consulting, and business development skills to over 30,000 clients enrolled in her business building programs. Suzanne started Driven Inc. from a spare room in a crowded apartment, and in just a few years, grew the company to serve thousands of clients, having gone from a secretary to surpassing the seven-figure mark herself. She has supported her private clients to grow multi-million-dollar businesses. I want to know, how do you keep track of 30,000 clients? Like, that's a lot of names and faces to remember.
It is, and well, I wouldn't say I know all their names if they walked up to me in the grocery store, but we try. And, it depends on the year, but give or take somewhere between 20 and 30,000 every single year go through one of our programs, from our beginner program to our high level program to our events. So it is an honor and a privilege, and I don't pretend to memorize every name.
There you go. So now the real deal is that Suzanne is one of my heroes. Suzanne is one of my mentors. We worked with Suzanne for 2 really transformational years in our business. And I am proud to say Suzanne took us from a 7-figure business to a multi-7-figure business. That's the inside scoop on how Suzanne and I are connected. So I would love to talk about kind of the deep end of the pool. The deep end of the pool, the person already making 500-600K. They're not sure what the next steps are. They really want to kind of go big with this thing, and sort of scaling and then having a real business instead of a series of jobs.
Sure.
So the first thing, and I know that you're also an investor in some businesses, and you have sort of a portfolio of interests. So you participate in this on all ends of it, right? You teach it, you coach it, you do it yourself, you help others do it. What do you think are the 2 or 3 key levers of a scalable coaching, training, or expert business?
Yeah, well, I would say a few things. First of all, for that person that, let's just say, is at the multiple 6-figure mark, right, going to the next level, I think it's the worst place to be. I mean, it's great that you've gotten there. That's not the worst place to be. But it's hard because what happens is that you can bootstrap it and you can hustle it, and you can be an incredible salesperson and make between $200,000 and $500,000 a year. When I was making $500,000 a year, I had like 2 VAs. And I think at that point, maybe I brought on like a person to help me do a little bit of assistant coaching. But you can't go into the 7-figure, multiple 7-figure without expanding, without creating team, without scaling at some level. Again, people who are either getting large contracts or they are mostly doing kind of consulting or individual work, you get 10 clients at $50,000 a year, you've made $500,000, and you might need some admin help or something. So what happens is a lot of people never get past that because they can't see beyond sales and hustle, right? So what happens is like you have to have, there's the whole scaling side, there's the system side, there's the team side, and there's the, what I call the relevance side, which is you can be pretty irrelevant and make a few $100,000 a year. because somebody needs what you do. And if you've gotten yourself connected enough and you're good enough at sales, but if you're going to scale on a large level, you have to be extraordinarily relevant with what is happening now, how people are wanting to consume information, how people are wanting to be trained or educated or consulted. And it's a bigger, scarier ballgame, especially with social media.
Yes. Well, you're a master of so much of this. I would love you to tell your success story about kind of what you saw coming with the pandemic, what you did as far as free content and free community during the pandemic, and now what are some relevance hacking strategies that you're either seeing or doing in this kind of post-pandemic recession, inflation craziness that we're experiencing?
Yeah. So I'll start with the pandemic. So obviously, I'm a huge college basketball fan. And I was at a college basketball game, ACC tournament with 25,000 people in an arena. And I kept looking at my phone. This was like March 12th or 13th. And I kept thinking, this thing seems weird. And I also kept going, and there's also 20,000 people around me. And they say there's a virus spreading, right? Like a little bit crazy. I went home that night. And the next morning is when they started saying, like, we're going to shut this down. We're going to do I think it started with a curfew. I can't remember, however they started. And I was like, whoa. And I was really in the camp of this is going to be like a few weeks to a couple of months. And in a day or two, when I realized that wasn't the case, or I wasn't sure if that was the case, I really had to sit in the middle of your floor and have a moment with yourself, Jesus, Mother Teresa, Buddha, and Satan. And what I asked myself is what I've always asked myself in times of crisis. I have this beautiful, terrible trait, which is I was meant for burning buildings. I do best when the building is on fire, right? You know, there's some people that like buildings on fire and they just collapse. I am built for burning buildings. And so sometimes I have to set a building on fire when things aren't bad to get myself into this mindset. But I was sitting there and I asked myself what we all should be asking ourselves. I said, why can't people sleep tonight? And the answer was not like, what's happening with the world and what about my business? And all. The answer was really like, are we going to be okay? And what they were saying was, are we going to be okay? Like, I've got 3 kids at home now. Are we going to be okay? Are we going to be okay? I can't go into work. What does this mean? Are we going to be okay? All of my clients are in person and now I can't see them, right? I knew it was a general. And so I said, that's what people want the answer to. They don't really want a marketing strategy right now. They don't want to know how to pivot. They want to know if they're going to be okay. So I created a Facebook group called the More Than Okay Club. And I said it was totally free. And I stayed up all night almost writing copy. And my team of about that time, it was 18 or 20 people. I said, this is the idea. This is the concept, churn, go. And everybody started, building websites and building, and free opt into the More Than Okay Club. And in doing that, I want to say a short period of time, like 2 weeks, got almost 3,500 people into this group. And every day I was going live and posting, and all the answer I was giving was, how do you be okay? And sometimes it was about life, and sometimes it was about business, and a lot of times it was about marketing and money, because that's my focus. But sometimes it was just about like the day. How do you get through the day? And we're all going to be more than okay. And I knew I was on to something when my cousin emailed to my team, actually. She responded to the email we sent out. And she said, you are a horrible human. I'll paraphrase for you. She basically said, you're a horrible human and you don't know that people are going to be more than okay. You have no idea. And to say this to people is like, oh, I'm just a business person trying to get your money. And I went, oh God, great. I nailed it. Right? Because you're being triggered every which way. And so we grew that group and then, of course, ran our events. We changed those from being in person to virtual. And that was a really pivotal moment in the history of my company. And I'm 14 years in now, right? Inc. 500. I've done lots and lots of cool stuff, but it was a pivotal moment in my business because it was literally in 72 hours. We were able to give voice and give reasoning to the thing that was common for every entrepreneur in that moment was, are we going to be okay? It wasn't, how do I make this work? It wasn't, or what's the new direction of business? It was, am I going to be okay? And so I think that was a great lesson to me in building community quickly, but also a great opportunity, obviously, because we saw that in the right questions, you don't really have to sell or market. People just invite themselves in. Sorry, I'll just tell you really quickly that there's a client by the name of River who joined that More Than Okay Club. River is now 3 years into coaching with us. And River invited multiple people into the More Than Okay Club, right? It was like, hey, I'm in this thing. You're scared too. Come over here. And I can't tell you how much business River has done with us, but how much business River's people have done with us. And I can't even count like how many stories there are like this. Like, oh, my friend David told me about this and I joined. Now I've been following you for the last 3 years. So it was fascinating. It was fascinating.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the answer to your question. Sorry, but
no, totally. Well, I got that hate mail too. It's like, you're a horrible person. How can you be, making money off other people's fears and misery, and businesses are imploding and you're a horrible, horrible person. A friend of mine at the time who happened to be from New Orleans said, don't feel bad, because my grandpappy used to have a saying, son, you ain't nobody until somebody hates your guts. So we both arrived. You and I both arrived. This is awesome.
There you go.
Are you loving this interview as much as I am? Holy smokes. Hey, you know what this reminds me of? There's a fantastic sales book that you got to get your hands on right here, right now. It's called Do It Selling. How do I know it's great? Well, I wrote it and you need to read it. Pop over right now to doitselling.com. Now, back to our interview. I love this kind of relevance, like when live streaming first went big. You're like, okay, gang, I'm doing a live streaming program. And hundreds of people came into that, and hundreds of people mastered this new skill and started to make money with it. Where do you balance the Suzanne empire and the Driven Inc. empire, stability versus relevance? So new offers come and go. Yeah. When do you know it's time to spin one up? When do you know it's time to spin one down?
Well, ironically, you and I haven't spoken. We stopped speaking. David and I stopped. Oh. We just haven't had like a deep, conversation in the last 6 months or so.
That's right.
And so I just overhauled the whole business recently, and which has just been so beautiful and so freeing. And it is exactly what you're saying. What I knew through COVID was there wasn't really a place for the reinvention. Was the moment, if you will. What is the moment now? And now is what the moment. And now is what the moment. And now we came out of that. And I think people are getting their sea legs, but for the last 6 months, maybe 8 months, it's just been interesting to watch people go, now what do I do? Right? Because it's like, we got used to working that way. Now we're in a different way. And so knowing as we were coming out of that I think what is the number one strategy for all business owners in the other side, if we can say that, of the pandemic and COVID, is it's about attention. And it's about being able to capture attention. And I learned during COVID what I hadn't learned for 14 years. I knew it, but hadn't like super absorbed it, was that everybody was home. Everybody was online more. Everybody was a little bit bored. So everybody had eyeballs on the internets, and truly only the people who could get the most attention won. And when I say won, like I was looking at this yesterday, like during COVID, our net was up 10%. Our gross was up 20, 25% in some cases. And during COVID, and that was all because I was like, they're home. And now we thought their attention was distracted before. Now they've got 1 million people to look at. They've got, all they're doing is looking at things all day and being distracted all day. And before, people were choosing, I really want to follow that David Newman. He seems interesting, or Suzanne Evans. Now it was like, I can kind of follow everybody. And so it was whoever gets your attention first wins. So I really latched onto that and changed my business model in my company to launch a program which is all about being captivating, because you cannot convert a client if you can't get their attention. And you can't get attention unless you can be captivating. And so if we reverse engineer everything we need to be in a service-based business, it's about being captivating. I don't have to be the best at what I do. I need to be good at what I do and experienced at what I do to succeed. But the most captivating person wins. And we learned that through COVID. And we learned that through these TikTok accounts or Instagram accounts that grew by 3 and 4 million during COVID because somebody just learned to get people's attention.
Yeah.
And so that is where I think the focus is in our marketing world right now in service-based and consulting-based businesses. Do you know how to get attention? Are you captivating? I'll give you another quick example. There's somebody right now who's doing videos that I happen to know, and they're really well-produced videos. Like they're just talking to the camera videos, but they look good. So you can be good at what you do. You can know how to do it, and you can even be good presentation skills. And you will get noticed. Notice I didn't say attention. You will get noticed. And getting noticed can get you to 6 figures, multiple 6 figures. To get rich, you have to be captivating.
Wow. So the bar is set a little bit higher than it used to be.
Absolutely.
So tell us about the empire. What's the empire look like? Because the last time we talked, again, we stopped talking. We stopped talking. Kidding. Hashtag kidding. There was Driven Business School. There was Driven Business School Elite. There was all of the fantastic speaker training and programs that you do, mentoring. And then there was this amazing series of events, initially live events, then virtual events, then maybe it's back to live now.
Yep.
What's the empire look like? What are the different ways that you help people?
Yes. So we still focus on 2 events a year, and those events are virtual and they will continue to be virtual. We just are able to serve more people with less of a pain in the ass for them, to be honest, travel and all that. Both of our events are brand new now. So our fall event is called Captivate, the event, and it's all about storytelling and being captivating. And how do you create one speech that becomes all of your content for a year? And really, it's the premise of one speech changes everything. Because it is your marketing. And if you know who you are and you know how your point of view and you know how to be captivating. So that's that event. And then our new spring event that we'll be doing in May, our new spring event is called the Yes event. And that is all about how do you go from captivating to converting, right? And so it's still on that captivating piece, but we'll talk a bit more about marketing, a bit more about sales and all of that. So our 2 events are still our core piece. But what we offer is the same program, which is our new Inspire program. And our Inspire program, we put about 105 people into that at the last event. And that program really teaches you what is it to be captivating? How does that captivation translate into social channels and the right channels for you? How does it translate into speaking? How does it translate into webinars? How does it translate across all marketing mediums so that you get more attention than everybody else, right? And so that is our core. And then we're getting ready to roll out a level above that will give people access to, and I would tell you the name if I knew it. Well, I've got a list here, but it's not, we're working on it. But that will be an opportunity to get more business model structure and more private one-on-one coaching. And then we still will have our highest level of like how you and I work together of private one-on-one coaching. But that's actually a different model as well. It looks different, but still the same concept of our multiple 6 and 7-figure business owners doing private one-on-one. So it's a much simplified model for higher profitability and easier scale.
Wow. Very, very nice. Well, I want to sort of cross-reference what we just talked about being more captivating, about, having a personality that is engaging and worthy of attention. Once we get to a certain point, and I know you have clients like this, they say, Suzanne, at some point, I want to sell this business. So not only do I want it to be scalable, I want it to be saleable. If everything is Suzanne, 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 or David, 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 how does that impact scalability and saleability? Like, are we a prisoner because it's a persona-driven brand? Or how do you transfer that or start to step out of the day-to-day?
You may need to ask a different guest that question, because here's my answer. I'm being honest. That's never interested me very much.
Really?
It's never interested me. I get up every day and I love what I do. I like being the center of it. And I don't mean the center of attention. There was a time when I enjoyed that too. I mean the center of it in the sense that I'm a teaching nerd at heart. I'm a teacher and I love teaching. And I want to I hope I'll tell my family I love them. And then I hope the last words are something that I can offer to someone else that will. So I really love it. And I don't really have a need or a vision to sell. And, I did think about that. I was just running financials. That's why I keep pulling this. There was 1, 2, 3, 4. There were 5 straight years where we doubled our revenue.
Wow.
And when I say doubled, we were already in the middle, right? It was just huge growth. And that was, of course, an opportune time to sit and go, what are we doing here? And I sat, and every product I would need to create or produce wasn't really what I love doing and the joy of how I love producing to create something that's like, great, we can sell this. And I still have some ideas in the back of my mind of divisions of my company or products that those could be, sellable and could be a separate entity. But I'll give my opinion that won't be popular to a certain segment of people. I've never come in contact, and I've gotten to be in some of the top masterminds in the world, of people who were building to sell, who were deeply fulfilled people.
Interesting.
And there's all kind of VC groups and stuff, that can be a whole different thing.
Sure.
Like hinting and you're doing that. But I'm kind of talking in the consulting, teaching world.
Right.
Because it's always, how do I get rid of it instead of how do I live with it?
Yes.
And for me, I'm always wanting to know, how can my life be more creative? How can my life be richer? How can my life be fuller because of this? Not how do I build this to get rid of it so I can then live?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's really interesting around fulfillment. The portfolio companies, like people say, I buy and sell companies every 5 to 7 years. I build it up and then I sell it, and I build up the next one and then I sell it. And that's sort of a transactional thing. And maybe they get their joy somewhere else.
Absolutely. It's no judgment. I'm just sharing. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. So talk to us right now, because there's, if you look at anyone's inbox, your inbox, my inbox, everyone is screaming from the rooftops, recession, and no one's buying, and no one's, our clients are laying off people, and our clients are hardly, even able to put bread on the table. And how do we market when everyone is scared? How do we market when there's layoffs, cost cutting, hiring freeze, job freeze, not hiring coaches, not hiring speakers? We cut our training department. What is kind of the fear and panic zone that we're in? And then how do we market to that, through that, or even better because of it?
Well, you're talking to a girl who built her business in 2008. That was when I launched my business. So I think your best bet when you're talking recession is always stupidity. I always play stupid, because I think for consultants, coaches, service-based providers, the opportunity is always in the recession. And I remember right before COVID, we were working on something in the business and I said, and they were like, what were you going to say? Like the executive team, I said, no, God, I'm not going to say that. And they said, say it. And I said, we could just use a little recession to get this one over the hill. And what I mean by that is that, the coaching consulting industry is a $14 billion industry. And yet we're having a conversation of how do I market through that? I want 6 billion. I'll take 6 billion. I want 6 million of that. People on here listening may be like, listen, I'll take 700,000 of that. So it kind of almost gets silly when we really even have the conversation. Because okay, so if it's a $14 billion industry that went to 9 billion, there's still tons of room for everybody to have $1 million business, right? So how do you market through it? You pick up the phone more. How do you get through a recession? You call more people, you make more connections, you book more speaking gigs. And worst case scenario is you double down, because you will always win if you increase volume. You will always succeed if you go, I have to outwork the problem. There's people that say you can't outwork a problem. Well, they were not a 7th generation farmer's daughter. You can always outwork a problem. And a recession for our industry is an opportunity because when people are laid off, they have no choice but to build businesses. I'm a business coach. When organizations are laying off, they have to hire freelancers and outside people because the work still has to be done. When businesses are, companies are shape shifting and people are seeing their portfolios change, they have stress, they have anxiety, they need to reach out to, the opportunities scream during these times. Our industry and ABC stores are lit.
Yeah. So this also, I think what also is popping in my head right now is what you said about, what are people thinking right now? And let's say we have a leadership trainer, leadership speaker.
Sure.
Would it behoove them, use the word behoove in an interview? Would it behoove them to do a little bit of a relevance shift to not just talk about leadership the way they've always talked about leadership, but leadership in a crisis, leadership in a downturn, leadership when your team's been cut? Is that kind of relevance conversation from our chat earlier?
Sure. Although what I say is it would behoove any person who is in any industry to talk about what people need in the moment. Now, there's two sides to a recession conversation. There's some practical, logistical, and then there's the general. The general I kind of discussed. I'm like, come on, guys, there's so much opportunity. We just put 105 new people into a program that is it's a 5-figure investment, right? But credit does sometimes get tighter. So what do? We make sure that we work with organizations and places that might be able to finance. We go heavy on PayPal, Venmo, other ways of paying so that people can use a debit card or use cash. We are at the ready to help people think of the 10 ways that they can finance this if credit isn't available to them right now. So yes, there's some logistical things you can do, but I'm always like, if you're a leadership speaker, the biggest problem with speakers and consultants is they decide their path and then they think people care, right? People care about what they care about. And what I cared about today is not necessarily what I cared about yesterday because it's a different day. So improvisation, flexibility, a broad universal range of problems that you can solve depending on the market, depending on the atmosphere, depending on the global experience going on.
Yeah, really, really important. Talk to us a little bit about the state of speaking, because I know that speaking, decimated March of 2020, like you and I talked about. Speaking calendars completely wiped clean. Then we went to virtual. Then we went to hybrid. Now a lot of in-person has already come back. What are you recommending to your speaker clients now in the current environment and the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, for us, I'm still saying put all of your effort into virtual and then grab what you can, not virtual. A lot of things that went virtual are staying virtual. But remember, the money is to be made in virtual. Why? I'll give you an example. I have a speaking gig this weekend in Florida. It's in Orlando. And I happen to have a sister, which you know very well, Amanda Evans, who is about 12 months pregnant. So she's about to have a baby any day. And so I have this speaking gig Saturday, and I'm going to fly in the morning. I'm going to speak. I'm going to come back that night. So I'm able to make a day of it, but that's rare, right? Usually it's got to take at least 3 days for any speaking gig. I have a speaking gig in March that'll take 5 days. It's in Phoenix. I got to do a pre-thing the day before. So that's 3 to 5 days off of your calendar. I can book 3 virtual speaking gigs in one day. This is my second, because it's a podcast, so I consider it a speaking gig. This is my second one today, right? And then I have 2 more. I couldn't do that. So if you really are focused on the scalability of speaking, focus on the virtual side of speaking. And then when the opportunity arises to do it in person, sure, go do it. So I try to really focus my folks on you book everything you can virtually because you can double your money.
Yes, I love that. Now, this also brings up, of course, live streaming, webinars, podcast hosting, podcast guesting. Out of all the different ways that we can put speaking in a bigger box, it's a silly question, but I got to ask, should people double down on their YouTube channel? Should they be going live on LinkedIn? Should they be going live on Facebook? What's the current state of kind of live streaming, YouTubing, and video as a marketing tool.
The person with the most visibility wins. The person who
captivating visibility.
Yeah. And, some of you may know these two names. Grant Cardone and Frank Kern kind of did a loosely scientific thing of like, what are people yearning for, content or volume? And volume won. Let's think about folks listening to this who have children. I have a 6-year-old. If I had 2 kids, you could have a 6-year-old that walks into the room and says, Mom, can I da 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 da? And here's the reason I want to do it. I want to do it because I think it will benefit me and da da da. And you can be like, oh my God, this kid of mine, I want you to do it. Or you can have a kid that comes in 7 times in a row and says, can I go? Can I go? Can I go? Can I go? And we kind of know, unfortunately, that kid that just keeps popping in, you're like, just go, enjoy yourself. Call me when you're there, right? It's the same thing with social. It's like the squeaky, wheel gets the grease, but the person, now it can't be shit content or nobody's going to want to watch it. Right. But the person who is consistently showing up and there she is, and there he is, and there they are, and there they are, seems to win the attention award.
Yeah. How about that? Holy smokes, so much value in this episode. Listen, if you are loving what you're hearing, feel free to download, subscribe, tell a friend, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to The Selling Show. Now, back to the interview. Now, is there a sense, because I know that you get this compliment a lot. I get it once in a while. People will come onto a sales call or they're finally ready to invest in something. They say, Suzanne, I've been following you for years. I feel like I know you. I feel like we're already best friends.
Yeah.
Easiest sale in the world, right? Because my best friend, come on in, give me your credit card. Let's go. What is that persona or that familiarity or that trust that gets built over time? How does that become an asset into our business?
Trying to think if I have it easily accessible to show to you. There's a strategy that I use, and I recently just kind of wrote it out, but it's talking about how do you, very Suzanne style, who the hell knows what it is, but we're talking about the different ways in which you speak to people. And what I mean by that is that a lot of people come at us with information, and it's really good information, and they're good presenters, and it becomes one note. Mr. T was a really big deal. The A-Team was the show.
I pity the fool. I pity the fool. Yeah. First name, Mr., middle name, period, last name, T.
It was a phenomenon, right? But very short-lived.
Yes.
Because they use the same formula for every show. And that's what a lot of people are doing in their social. And so when I talk about it, I talk about there's 9 ways that you should be coming at it from the different parts of the body. You should have your head stuff. You should have your heart stuff. You should have your gut stuff. You should have your hobby stuff. It's literally a stick figure that I do. You should have your action stuff. You should have your lifestyle stuff. That's when I'm fascinated by you. When I'm seeing you as a human, having a human experience and the fullness of that, as opposed to an information machine.
Yes. Wow. This just goes against what I jotted down here in my notes a second ago. I was going to propose some little wacky formula. Relevance plus value plus time equals trust, right? Relevance, value, and then repeated over time, over and over. Like, can I go? Can I go? Can I go? Yeah. Can I go? That's where trust gets built. But you're saying it's even more 3-dimensional than that.
It is. You know this, David, because you've done it. You can post a brilliant strategy and it gets liked and it gets commented on.
It gets nothing. It gets nothing.
You could post one of your bourbon or whatever it is. I've seen cheese, and it's like, I'll give you an example. I have on TikTok, I have a few videos that have done we're actually doing most of our effort is on TikTok right now. That's where we're getting the most attention. But I did this video. It's now got 633,000 views, and it was about my mattress.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Right. I've got another video that's about 15-minute decisions, and it's interesting and it's kind of hot, 438,000 views. And I've got one that says, it's called You Can't Have My Business Card. And it's about why I don't give people business cards at networking events. It has 1.5 million views. And it used to have something like 13,000 comments. And out of those 13,000 comments, about 10,000 of them were negative.
Really? How about that?
Who cares?
Right. No, it's great. It's great. By the way, my advice to folks listening, do not mix it up with Suzanne Evans. You're going to lose. You're going to lose. Oh my gosh. So good. So good. So you're like a TikTok superstar.
Well, I don't know, the superstar. I have 17, 18,000 followers, but we've done that all organically over the course of the last 4 months, 4 or 5 months.
So fast.
And the main thing is, who cares about the followers? But the main thing is, the speaking gig I have Saturday is from TikTok. Someone who saw me on TikTok invited me to speak at a women's insurance company conference. And then on top of that, we've sold tickets to our events. In turn, people who've joined our program. So I don't really care how many followers I have. I care, is the strategy getting us attention and is it profitable? And it is for us.
Amazing. So are you familiar with YouTube Shorts? Because that's YouTube's answer to TikTok. Is that also taking off for you?
We have a YouTube channel. We post, but we're not really playing in the shorts that deep. We're just doing our posting. Mainly our focus is Facebook and TikTok. That's really where our people are. Yeah.
So
our
0 to hero in 4 months.
Yeah. Our people are on Facebook. A lot of our people are moving to TikTok. Our energy is TikTok. We have a TikTok energy. So those are what, like, Instagram does not perform that well for me. We do it, of course, but it's a very curated place. TikTok is raw and real. That's more my style. Right. And just my demographic of my clients tends to be Facebook. Obviously, we're doing a lot on LinkedIn right now, but we after TikTok, we just started ramping up our LinkedIn in the last, probably honestly, 8 weeks. So we're going to be shifting a lot of what we're doing on TikTok to LinkedIn, because LinkedIn as a platform, it's really changing. Its demographic is changing. What people are looking for there is changing. So there's a lot of opportunity right now.
Totally amazing. Well, as we're starting to land the plane, I'm going to ask you 2 final questions.
Sure.
The final question is what kind of resources, links, and goodies we can share with people. But before we get to that, if folks were to take one overarching idea from building an expertise-based business in this moment that we're in, what would you say that core takeaway should be?
That you can't get clients and not know how to get attention. And that wasn't the case 14 years ago when I started. I actually could be really good at what I do. I could have some solid marketing, get great referrals, and go out there and market and get clients. It is not the case anymore. It is about getting attention along with your marketing and sales. And in my opinion, if you're 42 or over, that's not natural for you. It's natural for probably 38 and under, right? 36 and under. It's not natural for us. It's just not what we were born into and raised. You know, I get so my son was watching Netflix the other day and he said, I want the remote. And I said, Adrian, you're not going to get the remote. I'm in charge. He goes, no, I want to do something. I don't want to change what we're watching. And I said, okay. And I looked, we just finished a movie. He scrolled back to the movie. He went up, he went through stuff and he liked the movie. I've not even ever thought about doing that, David. Like it just never crossed my mind, like to go, he's 6 to go, but he was like, oh, we should like it. Like, and I thought, but right. It's just, you're being born into it. It's natural. It's not so natural for us. So we have to figure out how to use all of these platforms and these strategies to get attention, because you can't get clients if you can't get attention, and you can't do anything if you can't get clients.
And it's really important to inspire and to captivate, I'm told. Yes. Awesome. Well, speaking of that, where can people go to get connected and stay connected to more Suzanne Evans brilliance? We're going to drop these links in the show notes, but what's the offer? What's the goodie that we can share with people right here, right now?
So just really simple, Suzanne's free gift. You're going to drop it here. You can click that link. That's going to take you to something called our driven growth model. And it's really the one thing you can do to add 10K a month onto your bottom line. And so we'll walk you through that driven growth model. A lot of it is what we've talked about here, but just more in depth. Also give you an opportunity to talk to one of our coaches and get more specificity on how you get attention, then how you turn that into a business model, and then how you get clients. So Suzanne'sFreeGift.com. And then my company is Driven Inc. Always say the INC, not INK. We don't do tattoos. So it's driveninc.com, and that's where you can find out a little bit more about us. Suzanne Evans is my personal on Facebook. Suzanne Evans Coach on TikTok. If you Google me, though, you'll find us on Instagram. Pretty much everything is under Suzanne Evans.
Fantastic. And all of those links are going to be one click away right under this episode when you go to thesellingshow.com. I'm telling you, folks, you got to sign up for Suzanne's World. Get the download, get the blueprint. This is a woman who takes people from zero to hero, from hero to superhero, and from superhero to intergalactic. So, Suzanne, such a pleasure. And we got to talk more often.
I know. I feel like we were catching up while we were interviewing. So we have to do that on the side.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.